is recording.
Right. Is it all happening?
It is. Do you want to record on your phone?
Okay.
Yep.
Been recording for
Okay.
about 5 minutes.
Let's do the things.
Let's do the thing. Alright, well, I think I'll start by asking about Evangelion because...
Sure. Because why not?
Because why not? I've heard it's pretty good. I've meant to ask because with its original release, and then it's had the re-release, and there's movies, and now there's even more movies. How is it to be a part of something that originally came out and was a big hit, and then it's come out and an even bigger hit? It's come out yet again, and still getting more popular as it goes on.
It's quite a ride, you know, being on something, being associated with something that keeps going for this many years. Of course, I had no idea that it would have that kind of longevity, you know, and I mean, when we started recording the English dub for Evangelion, it was actually in its initial run in Japan, still running on TV there. So it had not really become any kind of big deal. It was not some big international phenomenon. It wasn't, you know, it was just sort of starting to gain popularity at the time that we were working on it. So we did not really have an idea what it was going to turn into. It's so incredible to be part of something that's been around for such a long time. And being in Australia, the interesting aspect to Evangelion and the relationship with Aussie fans is that this is the only place outside of Japan where it aired on regular television. So only the Australians and the Japanese, at least so far that I know of, got to watch the whole show, like the original uncut show on TV, like on regular broadcast television. So, well done.
No, it was definitely something. I think I remember catching part of an episode and being completely terrified by it way back when. It wasn't until actually these new releases of the movies that I actually got into the series because that's pretty much all I had experience with was I think I turned on the TV because you said it was on TV and there was just a bunch of giant robots eating another one.
Yeah,
turned it off
yeah.
and went, that's not for me.
Yeah, well, by the time it finally came on TV in the U.S., like the full version, it was on Cartoon Network, and my mom turned it on to watch a couple of episodes, but, you know, it's kind of like, you know, midway through the show, and she says, Tiffany, I tried to watch some of that show, but I don't really understand what's happening. Yeah, Mom, we have to watch it from the beginning. But of course, I guess if Ava fans know, really, if you did watch it from the beginning, you still might not know what's going on. So, too bad, Mom.
Was it any different coming back to the role after the initial one, coming back for these new films where not only had it been a bit of time, but the story itself diverts a lot. The characters themselves are different and have to face situations. Was it difficult to, I don't know, find the character or like lead them down this new path?
Yeah, I mean, it is a different version of Asuka. I mean, there's still hints of the original Asuka. There's still a little bit of Soryu in Shikinami, I think. There's still a little bit of the same. It's kind of like a mirror universe or something, you know what I mean? It's a reimagining of the characters, and obviously Shikinami is a little bit different than the original Soryu Asuka, but I mean, it's never difficult for me to like reach into the old Asuka bag. That's, you know, she's always very near and dear to my heart, so Asuka's close at hand at all times, and playing Asuka is never difficult, I have to say that, but it's been really interesting, you know, going back to it time and again over the years. We had the original TV series run, and then a few years later we did the Death and Rebirth and End of Evangelion, and then a few years after that we ended up doing the Platinum release that had the additional footage for the TV show, and, you know, then eventually doing these movies. So, you know, every few years or so I end up coming back and doing Asuka again, and then eventually, you know, hopefully we'll have the 4.0 movie and get to do Asuka another time, at least one more time.
Probably more if the past is any indication. They'll just keep coming out, because as long as there's people that want to watch it, and people that are doing it are interested in it.
Sure, why not? We'll keep doing it. I'll keep doing it for as long as I possibly can.
I'm also curious, kind of on the opposite end of the scale when it comes to series. Although, I don't know, I found it odd. It was kind of something that interested me and I wanted to ask. In the series Infinite Stratos,
Yeah.
you played Laura.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
She's a loud German mecha pilot who wears an eye patch.
Yeah, I know.
What do you know? It's kind of my specialty now.
Was that?
So I played this. So I wrote the scripts for Infinite Stratos for seasons 1 and 2, and we've also recently been working on an OVA for that as well. But I remember when I sat down to start watching it the first time, I sat down, I started watching it, and I paused. I paused it, and I went into Matt's office, and I said, by the way, there's a loud German character, and then I just walked right out. So it's kind of my specialty.
Was the, because in that series what interested me is when I heard it, it was one of the first ones I heard had such heavy or table like accent work throughout all the characters.
Yeah.
Was it just to fit in with the tone of the series, or was it to maybe separate certain characters?
Yeah, I don't know. It just felt like it really worked for that show. We originally did toy with the idea that Asuka would have a German accent because she is German and she grew up in Germany, so we thought why not. But I don't know. We just ended up not going that route for Asuka, so Asuka did not end up having a German accent. That's just the way that went. But done a lot of other German characters that have had a German accent, and we decided for Laura that it was appropriate because Asuka's an international type character. She isn't only German. I mean, she is. Her mother was German, but you know, she's an international character. So she's also part Japanese, and but with Laura Bodevig, definitely we thought, you know, she's German and she'll have a German accent, you know, and then there's the French pilot and the British pilot, so we've done it for a few shows.
Talking about writing with the scripts and everything, how different is the process to you to be working on the two separate sides of the mic as opposed to having to write the script yourself and adapt it, as opposed to just being given lines and having
Oh, well, it's a lot easier to just go into the booth and record it, of course. I mean, yeah, the script writing, it's a very, very tedious process and extremely time consuming because you've got to just really be watching every little mouth movement and making sure every single line is crafted to where, you know, they have the right number of syllables, that it's going to be starting and ending at the right time, and there's little pauses or something within the sentence, and of course all of the meaning and the nuance and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's very challenging, very time consuming, but
is there a difference? I would imagine it's much the same, but you've written for a few series that are like quite different from each other, which is the same way that performing a more serious character versus a more humorous character. How does that affect your writing and adapting process when you know that the material is either very dark or somber as opposed to more a comedy style?
yeah. Oh yeah, there is really a big difference, and I have written for so many different kinds of shows. I mean, I did Hello Kitty's Animation Theater and Sister Princess, which are both very lighthearted, and then other shows like Parasite the Maxim, which is a very, very heavy show. But I mean, for me, Parasite is one of the, hands down, one of the very best shows I've ever seen, ever. It's really a terrific show. But each show has its own kind of challenges to it. Deno Coil was a recent show that I worked on, and you know, that had a lot of sci-fi techno babble in it, on top of which all the characters are 10 and 11 years old, and so they have to actually sound like 10-year-olds, like believably like 10-year-olds. And then there's a project I'm working on right now that it has a lot of military lingo, and so I'm really trying to be careful with that and making sure that it sounds right, that the dialogue sounds like these people have military knowledge, that they're using the correct terminology, and having to do a lot of research into that. Yeah, so I mean, just every show has its own particular set of challenges on top of it. I mean, if it's a comedy, the main thing is it should be funny. So, you know, that's just the most important thing is it still has to be funny.
When you were writing for Stratus, because you were also in it, did you have any inkling that either you or anyone that was going to be in it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I knew I was definitely going to play Loud, for sure. I mean, there's no one else who's going to play the Loud German character. In fact, Matt Greenfield, my husband who was directing the show, had such a hard time finding anybody else who could do a German accent. There are, besides Laura, and you'll notice if you've seen the show, there are a few like minor characters that are in her black hair squadron. And the main girl, Clarissa, was actually voiced by Shannon Emmerich, who plays Charlotte. And yeah, she's a French character. Anyway, she does that girl, Clarissa. But then there are like some little Bridge Bunny type characters, and I do all of them. So that, I mean, he could not find anybody else that could do a German accent. And plus, there's like each one of them only has about 2 lines, so you don't want to bring in somebody and like, here are your 2 lines that you're doing.
Did that affect it at all, knowing that you writing it? Like you said, obviously you have to match it up to the animation, but knowing that you'd be voicing it in any way?
I've written, most of the shows that I've written scripts for, I've been in the show. I mean, sometimes when I'm writing the script, I don't know yet that I'm going to be in it. I knew I was going to play Loud, so that was not a question at all. But yeah, I mean, most of the shows that I've written, I've ended up being in the shows, but not all of them. But it doesn't necessarily affect. I guess the one way that it would affect it is like when you're writing a script, an ADR script for a dub, because it's a finished show, and you want to know if the script you're writing, does it fit with the animation, you have to actually perform the dialogue out loud. Well, I'm not going to perform every character when it gets dubbed, right? It's going to be a whole bunch of different people. So I'm going to approximate how I think some actor is going to deliver that line. And I mean, most of the time I might not even know who's going to be playing that part. So the one way that it is helpful is if I'm voicing, if I'm going to be doing the voice of that character, then at least when I'm reading that character's dialogue, it should really fit because I'm going to be the one who's saying the line. So that's the one only advantage there, I guess. Also, you know, if I've written a show, then when I go in to record on it, it is helpful because I've already seen the show and I know what the show's about and I understand what's happening in the scene. Because most of the time, when I go in and work on a show that I haven't written, I don't know anything about it. I'm there, the director tells me what I need to know, and I'm seeing it right now for the first time. And of course, I'm only going to do the bits where my character is. I'm not going to, sit there and watch the whole show in the studio. We don't have time to do that. So.
Yeah, I would imagine so, and helping you with actually giving you more context as to how you want the line performed.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
well, now that's down to the director too.
That's what
I
was
I might have my own ideas as like how something should be, but ultimately that's going to be the director who is the final arbiter of that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask about. How does it maybe? I'm trying to think how to word this. Does it make it easier or more difficult with you having seen the inception of the line from the beginning and having written it? Does it give you an idea of how you thought it would sound? And does it make it harder to change it because it's been in your mind for longer?
Oh, well, I mean, it's definitely not staying in my mind because, if I'm writing all the scripts for a 12-episode series, I mean, by the time we come back and we're recording it, however many weeks later, I've already completely forgotten whatever that line, the line was supposed to be. So, no, I mean, and honestly, the truth of it is that you're going to end up having to make changes in the dialogue when you get into the booth and you're recording. I mean, I've had to make changes on lines that I have actually written when I'm in the studio. Sometimes you just have a little flash of inspiration, like, oh, it'd be so much better if I said it like this instead. But Yeah, it's not, there's nothing that's really fixed in my mind. One of the things that I tend to like, actually, about voice acting in anime is the spontaneity of it. And obviously, if I have written the script for the show, then that is completely gone as far as like genuine spontaneity, like, oh, I've never seen this before. But when I'm going to work on a show that I didn't write for it, then I haven't probably seen it before, so I'm watching it all fresh for the first time, and that means that whatever the character's experiencing, and the character's experiencing it for the first time, then I am also, and so there's a sort of like a freshness, spontaneity to that I really quite enjoy that.
Well, yeah, is there a personal preference when it comes to having a series where you've worked on it and known it a little bit more, having done script for it, or just going in and seeing it for the first time?
No, I don't know. Years and years ago, I had this idea in my mind that I needed to watch the episodes before I went in and recorded on them. And I think that's just like an actor thing that's sort of drilled into us working in the theater, you know, that you have to really get to know the characters and you do all this study and all this rehearsing. And so I really held on to that for a long time. And then I realized the first time I went in and recorded something, I'd never seen it before, it's like, oh, this is actually quite liberating. I like it. But at the same time, of course, I mean, it doesn't bother me any one way or the other to be voicing on a show that I did write the scripts for, so that doesn't, either one is fine, but I do, just generally speaking, I do like the spontaneity of working on something that I've never seen before, because it's kind of invigorating.
Well, speaking to that, saying training in theatre and voice actors will talk about their performances learning in the theatre or other types of performances. Do you find that there's more similarities or differences versus your other forms of acting?
Wow, you know what? I do a whole panel about that exact topic, voice acting versus stage and on camera. You know, there are similarities that carry through to any type of acting that you do because you're still communicating with the audience and you're still telling a story. Like I say, even if you're doing a 30-second mattress commercial, you're still communicating you're just telling a story about mattresses to the customers. But definitely a theater background, I think, is very helpful for people that are working in any kind of acting, for sure. But for voice acting, I think there's a lot there, a lot of similarities. You know, when you're on stage, there is a separation between the actor and the audience because the actors are up here on the stage and the audience is out there. And in theater, the performances tend to be just a little bit larger than life, a little bit over the top. And I think that is true also when it comes to voice acting because, again, there is sort of a separation. Like the audience can't see you at all. They see the character, but your performance has to be carried through and it has to match with whatever's happening on the screen. I mean, it's a little bit like, I guess, Greek theater where they would come on and they would just have a mask and then, you know, you don't see the actor's face or hear their voice and then you look at the mask. And in a way, it's kind of like that. But I think that, you know, theater background is definitely very, very big plus. And that's where most actors come from, is having done theater before they get into, if they get into other forms of acting. Usually theater is kind of the springboard to the rest of it.
Was as a different form of acting, was voice acting ever on your radar when you were coming up and learning about the different forms of acting that there were?
You know, I mean, it kind of was. I can remember being pretty young and having what I like to call one of my Tiffany epiphanies, where I realized that, oh my gosh, you know, when I'm watching this cartoon, there's an actor doing that voice. That's a person, you know, or just listening to, you know, a TV or a radio ad, and it's a person. And I was just really fascinated by that. And I had this little Sony cassette player, and I would write stories, sketches, you know, whatever, and I would play the different characters and I would record them on these tapes. And so I guess that was like my early voice acting that I did. And but as far as trying to, like, I never put it together that that was any kind of career that I could possibly have. All I knew was like, okay, well, I'm an actor, so I guess I will just do theater because that's what you do. So that was really what I was pursuing because I had no idea how to do anything else. I didn't know what to do, where to go, really anything. And in fact, an old friend of mine from junior high called me up and said, oh, there are these people doing this English version of some Japanese movie. I don't remember how he put it, but you know, oh, I remember that you're an actor and they're looking for some actors, so do you want to go and do that? And I thought, oh my gosh, yes, it's like light bulb moment. Yes, I do want to do that. That sounds great. But not really knowing how to pursue it, and just getting this phone call out of the blue one day, 1994, and so I'm still doing it.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. Who knew that this would be a real job? I mean, I didn't know that it was a real job.
And it's gotten more and more popular outside of the country as opposed to when it first began. Have you found it's, I don't know how the process works to be honest, but the changes that have gone on since the original inception where someone would phrase it like, oh, they're doing this, to now when everyone knows, say it's a dub of an anime. And
oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, I
means.
wish I could even remember the way that he put it because he wouldn't have said something like dub an anime. I mean, those were not even words that were in the vocabulary for anybody to say. I'm sure it would have been like recording an English version of a Japanese cartoon or, you know, something. I mean, I have no idea on earth how he described to me what they were doing. All I knew was that I definitely wanted to go and do that. Whatever it was they were doing, I wanted that job. Yeah, it's changed so much. I always tell people when the first show that we did, when it came out, which was came out about August, I think, of 1994, and there used to be this chain of stores in America called Suncoast, and they were in the shopping malls, and they sold, videos and CDs and things like that. And I went in there because I was in this movie, and it was in a real video store, you know, and there was a shelf. It was maybe the shelf was like this, but there were like about this many videotapes on there, and the sign at the end of that shelf said Japanimation. So anime as being, you know, a word that people knew, that wasn't even a thing in 1994. So now at least I can explain it. People, like I say anime, and unless it's like a really elderly person or someone who's been living in a cave, they do know what that word is. They have some association, like, oh, okay, anime, I know what that is. My nephew watches that, or my grandson watches that, or my kids watch that, or, you know, they know what it is. So at least it's become a little bit less unusual to try to explain to people what on earth I'm doing. Actually, you know, a few years ago, I was coming down to Australia for a convention, and I do a lot of volunteer work at a wildlife rehab in Houston, and this one of the other volunteers there said something like, I heard that you went to Australia to become famous, or I don't know, something like that. And I had to say, this was so embarrassing, I had to say, well, actually I went there because I kind of already am famous, and that's like why they wanted me to go. But yeah, just trying to explain this like to the average person is very complicated. It's like, I don't know what that means.
Is that an odd distinction as well? Because with voice acting, what tends to happen is that in, perhaps say the public, not many people, it's not as like a movie starts a recognizable thing, but come to a convention and everyone knows.
Yeah, I mean, it's very weird. It's a very weird dichotomy because obviously for the most part of my life when I'm out doing my grocery shopping and running errands and filling up my petrol tank in my car. It's like, people are not mobbing me. There's not TMZ isn't following me around to get photos of me without stars. They're just like us, you know. So it's, yeah, I don't really get recognized very often. But once in a while I will get recognized, but very, very rarely. So yeah, it's so weird to, you know, come to a convention and a lot of people know who I am and they do recognize me and they want an autograph or something, and then the rest of my life is not like that at all. So it's, yeah, it's really weird.
No, I imagine it's like some kind of on-off switch for fame,
Mm-hmm.
where you're the most well-known person or just...
And just not anyone of note whatsoever. Yeah, I know.
I don't want to put it like that.
No, but I mean, but it's true. It's so niche, and you know that's the way the entertainment industry is now. That there are so many different niche categories of things where people that are really into that particular fandom, well then, you know, they're heroes in that endeavor, whatever it is, if it's sport or some type of, you know, singing, film, whatever it is, then the people who are really interested in that, then they really know all about it. But then if you're not interested in it, then you don't know about it at all. It's just like, who is that person? So.
I don't want to take up too much of your time, so I'll finish with one more question.
Okay.
Tie it back to everything. Having done so many performances and different voices in anime, is there a role that you can think of that you want more people to hear?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. A role that I want more people to hear. I don't know. All of them. Gosh, I'm not in it at all, but really, I just want people to watch Parasite. I think Parasite the Maxim is such a fantastic show. And like I said, I was a scriptwriter on that. I did not do the voice of any character in the show whatsoever. There is a character that I really wish that I could have voiced, but I did not. And anyway, I wish people would just watch that. I'm not in it, but please watch it, enjoy.
It's a very good series.
It is such a good show. Oh, it's such a good show. If you do not cry, if you are not profoundly affected when you watch that show, then you are not a human being. You have a heart made of stone, and that is what I'm saying to you. It is so good. Not that I'm saying, oh, watch this show, it's sad, it's going to make you cry all the time, because it's not. I mean, it's like really action, and there's just, it's such a great show.